busted out in Houston and millions of illegal aliens moping around. There's like, the guys are laughing. There's like 3 million in Houston. I was on I-45 this weekend. I was already going to visit family in East Texas. 20-mile-an-hour wind on the TV, freaking out, and like it was the end of the world in Dallas. But it was bad down on the coast. We had a caller talking about government checkpoints, FEMA terms again, so they could grandstand. Yes, you're welcome to call in. I'm saying I specifically am not going to talk all day about cyclone or the hurricane that came into Texas and Louisiana. And, you know, on the other side of the world, 70 miles an hour. Now, those are bad. Those are bad on the other side. The old Pacific Ocean. I'm having to look at FEMA on C-SPAN right now. The guy in his military outfit. Admiral Craig Vanderwagen, Secretary for Preparedness and Response. Health and Human Services, they're the ones that fund kidnapping each year. See, that's why I don't like the government. See, I look at him up there grandstanding as our federal agency does. I know that in Illinois they're confiscating guns using source NBC. I know they're confiscating guns every time they have any in high and dry areas. I know the government isn't our government anymore, and I'm upset about it. And I know we've got a lot of callers here. You're welcome to call 905-5525-877-5907, 5907-5907-5905-5525. Bailouts will push U.S. into depression. That's the whole point. We have to be leveraged fully into a debt we can never pay back. And then the private banks, they get public lands. They get your tax money to pay back debts that were made out of nothing. It's all just on a ballot sheet. It's all zeros and ones to them. But by bankrupting us, and that's in the IMF World Bank documents, declassified 2002, covered by BBC, by bankrupting us and other nations, which they've done, then they get to get the real assets. So, see, that's the whole point. They keep, we'll save you. Don't worry. We'll take over more banks. We'll take over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, 50-plus billion. But they also didn't just, it's not just the mortgages. They sold those asset securities. And using fractional reserve banking, they then would call, say, a $100,000 mortgage or a $500,000 jumbo loan. They would call that a AAA security, a debt. And they would loan that out 10 times. They would call that $100,000, that $500,000, an asset, and then they could leverage and loan 10 times out again, all fiat, all nothing, all just made up. That's why they send credit cards every day or two to poor college students in the mail. But once you're not in debt, you don't get credit cards in the mail anymore, or 2 or 3 times a year. And then they'll cancel credit cards saying, well, you don't use them enough, and you pay them back right away. You're getting a bad mark on your credit. You know you get a bad mark on your credit for that? You get a bad mark on your credit. That's about 5 years old now. That's a new, you're paying off you're bad. Oh, my God. This is about schmucks. This is about ruining lives. This is about you living a life of a sharecropper. This is about never getting out of debt. And I'm not a cynical person. These are the facts. Again, if I see my neighbor's house on fire, I'm not going to go, I'm just going to be positive. I'm not going to be negative and say it's on fire. I'll just go back to sleep and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be positive here. And I'm going to imagine there's no fire over there. Or I gave the analogy earlier this week because people say, well, man, you're so negative. You need to be more positive about things. Okay, I'll be positive. This is a great country. The greatest in the world. I love this nation. And we have had plenty, and we have had success, but because of who our forebears were, not because of who we are. Look at the test scores. Look at the statistics. Look at it all. We are a joke, but plenty destroys civilizations. They say that adversity makes men, and plenty makes monsters. And that certainly happened. And because this nation is a great nation, I want to try to save it. And because we're not all completely decadent and completely dumbed down and completely willfully ignorant, buying into lies and fraud and Madison Avenue false imagery, it's what it's all about. Image over substance. Fake conservative images, fake liberal images, Sarah Palin images, Barack Obama images. I'm not buying into any of it. Change. They give us a woman and a black guy, but the same bankers own them. If I was walking through the woods and a rattlesnake bit me, or walking through the Arizona scrub brush and a rattlesnake bit me, would I go, oh, Mr. Snake, oh, I'm going to be positive and I'm going to keep hiking? No, I would take my knife, cut my leg open, get as much blood out of there as possible, and I would get back to where I was, and then I'd try to get in and get anti-venom. But no, I could just be positive and go, oh, everything's fine. I mean, I'm watching these rattlesnakes bite this country over and over again, declare what they're doing to us. And then I watch a public who want to procrastinate and do nothing about it, rationalizing all this corruption. Look at these headlines. Bailouts will push U.S. into depression. CNBC up on Infowars.com. Got a link to this. The end result of global economic slowdown may be the U.S. announcing national bankruptcy as the government cannot afford the bailouts that it promised, and the market will not bail out the government. Martin Henneke, senior manager at private clients at Tisch, told CNBC on Thursday, and I've got all these other analysts saying the same thing. By the way, Trey, I want to get him on the show. Greenspan, this is the worst economy I've ever seen. You got to love the captain who's run us into the iceberg, but used the controlled media of the bank's own to tell us how he's God, now blaming Bernanke. I mean, the captain's got us headed straight towards the iceberg, 500 yards away, and then he goes and says, relieve me, first mate Bernanke. And Bernanke climbs up to the wheel there and says, okay, the captain says, increase speed, straight ahead. And then now we have Greenspan, the worst economy he's ever seen. He said, by far, going into a depression. Fannie Freddie, ticking time bomb explodes, public shocked. The failure of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, setting in motion the biggest government bailout takeover in U.S. history, brings a grim sense of fulfillment to competent economists. After all, what did people expect, that water would flow uphill forever? The financial mega mess is the same sort of event as the collapse of the USSR's centrally planned economy, another economically unworkable Rube Goldberg apparatus that was kept going more or less badly for decades before it fell apart completely. Along the way, of course, famous yet actually unsung economist assured the world that everything was working out splendidly. As late as '89, when the pillars were crumbling on all sides of the temple, Nobel Prize winner Paul A. Samuelson informed readers of his widely used textbook, The Soviet Economy, is proof that a socialist command economy can function and even thrive. And then it collapsed. And make no mistake, you are going to be paying taxes forever. And how are they going to do that? They're just going to seize your house. They're just going to tax you at higher and higher rates. They're just going to hire more cops to write more tickets and more fines and more fees. And, yeah, they're going to take property owners' land. They're going to jack up property tax. And it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And so that's why during this phase, they love big tax cuts. They love, corporate bailouts. They love welfare, corporate and to the individual. Anything to get those debts up for the private banks so they get real assets. And now the Democrats propose gas stamps. Let's pay for everybody's gas and then put 20% interest on it to the private banks who loan the money out of nowhere. All right, I promise we're going to go to Franklin, Ted, Jim, and many others when we get back. Ray, Jonathan, stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. The websites, again, are prisonplanet.com. Prisonplanet.com has been redesigned. Check it out.